ready? It's the Roundtable with me, Robert Bannon. Hey, everybody. Welcome to this special edition of the Roundtable Talks. Listen, as someone who grew up in New Jersey and has done plenty of community theater in my life, I feel like I have been in the play that goes wrong. I feel like we all have been in the play that goes wrong. Going on right now at New World Stages, there's a show that I got to see and I had a blast. I told you all about it. We have two of the stars here. If you're anyone who enjoys the theater, Broadway, just comedy, just a good fun night out after all we've been through, then you need to head on down to New World and check out the play that goes wrong. We have two of the stars with us today. Maggie and Chris are here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, I'm excited.
No, I'm so grateful to have you both here. As an actor, I knew I was going to like it. I just didn't know how much I was really going to like it. It looks like a exhausting blast every single night. I'm sure you are all having.
Yeah, emphasis on the exhausting, I would say. But and blast, I suppose. We have so much fun. I mean, every night is a new journey. Every week is a new journey in this show. There's so many variables, which you probably noticed. So, there's no same show twice, which kind of contributes to the exhausting and the blast side of things each week.
I can only imagine. Well, I don't want to give away too much of the show. The show has been around for a moment. It had a very long run on Broadway. It's now tours. It's now on New World Stages. And without giving away the plot or some of the surprises that happen throughout, it is a very immersive, interactive kind of experience. So you are all not only living off of each other's energy, but the crowd must be a cast member as well, Maggie.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I think you summed it up quite well when you talked about community theater. And we've all been in that position of where something goes wrong and you just have to keep going. And you're so right. What makes it so much fun is it is a completely different show every night because the audience is very much a character in our show. Each joke lands differently each night, which keeps us on our toes. And also the fight choreo keeps us on our toes. So it is definitely a blast for sure.
Chris, can you tell us a little bit? Listen, when I went to acting school, my acting school teacher said, everyone thinks comedy is easy, and comedy is not easy at all. It is its own science, its own nuance. It's about timing. It's about commitment to the outlandishness that you do every single night. Can you tell us a little bit when you were cast in the show, how did you get ready? What was the rehearsal process like to do everything you have to do in the show?
I mean, it's a daunting task. I mean, you know the show from an outside perspective. There's so much going on. I think that's one thing that feeds the audience. Actually, one thing that makes people come back is there is so much going on that people notice new things every time they see it. So yeah, it was terrifying when I got cast in this show. I also hadn't done theater in a little bit as well. So that was an aspect to it. Thankfully, we have a great directing team, Maddie DiCarlo and Mark Evans. Mark also helped with the fight choreo in the show as well. So they really kind of held us by the hand and took us through the whole thing. And it helps. You mentioned that Broadway run. You mentioned the show's history. I think they've learned a lot from all of those. So they knew exactly what to kind of target with us. I started my life in this show as Jonathan. It was a different role from who I'm playing now. I understudied the role I'm playing now. And that's a very physical role. And that was my big challenge going into rehearsals, is that I was not physically fit when I started working on this show. They call it Body by Jonathan. And by doing the show every single night, I finally got there. One thing that really helps, which I think is pretty fun, is we improvise a lot as a company. You touched on that community theater feel. So to help kind of instill that feel of community within our group of actors and crew, the Cornley group, the people who are trying to put on this murder mystery, we would improvise as them. We might look at the 15 minutes of intermission and what they're doing there, the first day of rehearsal, the last day of rehearsal, and how all of them interact. So we build up our kind of own history there. Which helps bring us a lot of truth to the performance. Because you mentioned comedy's hard, and when you try and play the comedy, that's when it gets harder. And this isn't a comedy to any of the characters in the show. It's a tragedy. So when we build up that truth and that honesty, we can bring that to the show every night. That's really helpful.
But that's what makes it fun, because watching
Yeah.
you in the audience, we're laughing, but the stakes are super high on stage.
Super high.
We're watching,
Yeah.
watching you flounder and fall apart and try to keep it together, and it just makes it even more funny.
Yeah.
Maggie, when you look at the physicality on stage, there's a fake crew on the stage. There's a crew as members of the cast. But can you tell us, while I was watching it, I thought of the show's actual crew. That is not the easiest little gig. This is not put a spotlight on and turn the audio on and get to town. There's a lot of work. Will you tell us a little bit about what's going on behind the scenes during the show with your crew?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you asked that question. We are absolutely blessed, and I am incredibly grateful for our crew. Our stage manager, Whitney Keeter, our assistant stage manager, TJ Kearney. We also have Lillian and Austin and Allison backstage, and I could go on and on. All of our crew, it becomes, for lack of a better word, a machine. We all work so well together, having been with the show. Many of us have been with the show since opening Off-Broadway, and it's quite regimented. It's quite choreographed, and everything in the play and off stage is quite choreographed down to a T. I move this when I go over here now. And that's because, again, the community theater feel almost. You must work as a group and as a team, because there are some dangerous stunts going on. You know, not to ruin it for any viewers, but there's some flashy things. And so we all have to keep each other's safety in mind. And so we practice a lot. We rehearse a lot together, the cast and the crew. And we're constantly looking at things, constantly working on bits of the fight, constantly looking at the naps and the slapstick elements of the show. And, why we are even more lucky is because we all enjoy each other's company. And so when we come to work, we are excited and we're alert, and we're just down to have a good time. And so that presence really, I don't know, it really makes everything clean and crisp and safe.
No, and that's what I thought. I literally was like, oh my goodness, it's a lot of responsibility. There's a safety element to this show. And do you like, Chris, do you guys have do you have a daily fight call? Like, do you do all of that in rehearsal, before the show?
We do, and it's surprisingly short, depending on what's going on a given day. Maggie might be a good person to talk about this, because she's actually the fight captain as well. But we look at a sword fight that happens in the middle of the show, and then we also touch on if we have any understudies on, or Maggie talked about those eyes on all of the stunts in the show. If anything looks a little off or feels a little off to one of the actors in the show or our crew, Maggie mentioned how fantastic they are. And, we talked about how the audience is an additional character. The set is an additional character in this show. There's 8 actors, there's an audience, and there's a set. That's just 10 characters, really. If there's anyone backstage who wants to run through something, we might add that to the fight call as well. But yeah, Maggie's our fight captain. She's the perfect person to talk to.
Maggie, there's a lot of students that end up watching the show. If you're not a union or equity, or you've never done a show with fight, or even there's a dance captain you may be familiar with. Can you tell everyone what the job specifically of the fight captain is, and what does a fight call look like every day?
Sure. So I actually didn't know what a fight captain was coming into the show. And then as soon as I learned what it was, I was like, yeah, I want to do that. So basically what the fight captain is working hand in hand with our fight coordinator, who happens to be our associate director, Mark Evans. And it's basically being an extra pair of eyeballs on your fellow actors to make sure that everything's going cleanly and smoothly, crispness and safety. But in addition, it's working with the understudies, our covers, our vacation swings, and our principals to find what feels good on their body. Something that might feel good in rehearsal might not feel good 8 shows a week. So what I love to do with my fellow castmates is find what's sustainable, find what you can do over and over. And so as Chris, I keep wanting to call him Lanceley. That's what we call him backstage. So what Chris said is, we do have a very short fight call. I like to say because the ladies know what they're doing, because it becomes so routine. We will look at anything that maybe feels not believable, that feels unsafe, or maybe it's just out of sync in the what our director calls the orchestra of the show. We the lines are important, but also the movement and the fights and stunts are also important in that sort of melody of the show. So that's a roundabout way of saying what a fight can.
No, I get it. The movement of it is its own, is a song, is an instrument. It's a whole choreography of it all. It's really, really, really fun to watch. If you want to see something, actors working at their best with so many skill sets. You guys are wearing so many hats throughout this. You're not only acting, but the fights and the physicality of it all. So I'm sure you've gotten this question many a times, but Chris, do you have a play that goes wrong moment? Have you done, I was looking at your playbill, like I've seen all of your experiences. Have you each had, we'll start with Chris and ask Maggie, has there been a moment that sticks out where I was like, I was in this production and ...
I mean, I could pull a few from the play that goes wrong, to be honest,
I was going to
but I
ask you,
won't.
does
I have
play
a
that
really
goes
fun
wrong
one.
ever go wrong? But go ahead.
I will touch on one from the play that goes wrong. There's a whole bit that we've lost a dog. We've lost a dog. We need to find the dog. We have a dog in the show and we can't find it. I won't ruin anything, but there was one performance when a member of the audience during the show, completely unprompted, thought that was their time to walk up on stage, get on all fours, and be the dog. I don't know how that happened, what kind of miswire went on up there, but midway through the performance, they walked up those little steps onto the stage and pretended to be the dog, which was beautiful. We really enjoyed that for the rest of the show, especially backstage. I do have another one from community theater, though. I must have been like 14 years old. It was a very serious play. I was playing a school kid talking to a school teacher. And they needed a larger set. Sorry about the cat. You've all got pristine, clean walls, and I've got this mess behind me. Sorry about that.
Not at all.
And they needed more space for the set, so they put it all the way to the walls, including what was a fire exit / entrance. And a late audience member rushing to the show during this scene, this very serious scene between me and the schoolmaster, burst in through that fire door. It closed behind them. They couldn't figure out how to reopen it, and they were just stood on the stage. And rather than make an exit, they just kind of stood there and tried to look as inconspicuous as possible with the audience chuckling away at them. I love that.
There you go. Now
that could be in the play that goes wrong.
That could be in the play that goes wrong. Maggie, do you have any experiences that stand out in your head about when something went wrong?
Oh, sure. I also have one from play that goes wrong. I was fortunate enough to be the understudy before I moved up to play Sandra. And one of my first nights on, I went to the White Room. And if maybe you or your viewers don't know what going to the White Room is, it means you go up on a line and you sort of fall back into your brain and don't know what's next. And without giving too much away, let's just say someone was running at me and I might not have gotten out of the way soon enough. And we may have fallen through something. We recovered really well. And basically it was one of those moments of, okay, well, there's only up from here.
It just proved to you that you all can get through with whatever comes your way up there. And what's fun about the show is anything can happen, and it feels like it fits in the constructs of what this plot of the show is. It brought back a lot of memories of me. If it was high school, if it's college, if it's even regional summer stock Music Man in a barn kind of growing up that I was doing, where you have these moments where if you're at home, if you're a family, if you have children that are into their school plays and theater, you want to have a fun night and go see something that everyone could enjoy and get a kick out of. Even if you love football and baseball and don't go to the theater. This is something that you're going to sit through, you're going to laugh, and you're going to have a good time no matter what. And you could get tickets at BroadwayGoesWrong.com. So make sure you get your tickets. Let's take a look. You have an amazing cast of people here, and we just so happen to have a little shot of the group here. What a brilliant, and there's some of the chaos that ensues throughout this whole event. When you both were cast in this, before you even show up on day one of rehearsal, Maggie, and you get your script, what is your mindset? With a comedy, do you take your script and do you write it up and mark actions or do you wait to find the physicality? What is the homework that goes into the work as you show up on your first day of rehearsal?
Oh, I really love that question. Thank you for asking that. My personal process, and I think it's different for everybody, is I just memorize the lines. That's it. Just make sure they're in there. You might go up in rehearsal, but I like to memorize with my body. And I was fortunate enough to have seen the original cast, the writers of the show on Broadway, so I had a little inkling of what I was in for. But I think for me, I love coming into rehearsal with the idea of who the character is and the lines in my head, but a blank slate. And I might have had to go to yoga and to the gym after seeing the show and knowing I was cast in it.
I understand that. Chris, what do you, that's real and part of it. What is, Chris, but you're both, so you all are such a beautiful cast. It's really, it's so much fun to see it. Chris, what was your process? You get cast in the show. How do you get yourself ready to take on this marathon and learn your character?
I'm a bit of a worker when it comes to that. I have this process that I've done since school, where I take a large book, I print out the script, I cut it up so that I can stick it to one side and have the right-hand page of the book blank. So I have the script there and then the blank page. First thing I like to do is go through and kind of look at any time my character talks about someone else, talks about themselves, someone else talks about them. I pull out those things. So I have a kind of database of knowledge of what I think of others and what others think of me and what I think of myself, which is a little complicated for this show because I play Chris Bean in the show, but Chris Bean is playing Inspector Carter in the murder mystery that they're putting on. So that's kind of a double amount of work there. I've got to see what Chris Bean thinks of himself and everyone thinks of Chris Bean, and then what Carter, etc., thinks of himself. And that was important to me going into it because I wanted Chris Bean to be as real as Inspector Carter, because Chris Bean wants to play Inspector Carter, but as things go wrong, Chris Bean shows himself on stage. His frustration that it's not going well, his disappointment that he can't just continue his lines as Inspector Carter. So really, I wanted to know those two characters as well as possible going into rehearsal. I didn't really memorize my lines. I like to do that during the rehearsal process. While up on stage, I have a terrible habit of learning in a specific way, learning the dialogue in a cadence that doesn't serve me in rehearsal. So I kind of leave that to one side and spend my efforts being academic in a way. And I feel like if I'm not academic, I can't come from a place of confidence. And that's just me. That's how I work. If I haven't done that work, it kind of translates to me flailing a little bit and not feeling confident in the work I'm doing when I'm up there. So it's a real pen and paper kind of situation.
Chris, you're the kind of actor that makes me be like, oh man, he's really prepared. He has books and Bibles and everything.
And honestly, I'm flapping the whole time.
And I've showed up to Starbucks. He's got an entire encyclopedia full of notes. It's true. But what you said that I thought was really interesting is while you're playing a character, it's a show within a show. But Maggie, there needs to be a real confidence about how to, there's no second guessing to make this as fun and believable as you are you are putting on a show amongst all of this chaos. And you have to really be confident that your castmates and yourself are going to get from point A to point Z and through this journey every single night. What do you both, as we finish up here today, what do you both do to keep do you have like what is your advice or help like to keep sane and rested? What's your self-care routine?
Oh, yeah, I love that question. I think I'll say this. I didn't know a self-care routine before I joined this show. I tended to be a person who was like, I'm fine. Let's do this. Go 150% every night. And it's funny you ask, because I was just talking to my doctor about this today, how, you have to learn how to be able to do something 8 shows a week. And so that means listening to your PT, stretching, taking care of yourself after the show. And because this is such a physical show, really showing your body love and maybe doing the things that you don't necessarily want to do, all the PT stretches that you're like, oh gosh. And then the other advice I'll always give to everybody, no matter what show, warm up, make sure you're ready to do the show, both vocally and physically, because, you're setting yourself up for success there. I hope I answered your question well.
That's great advice. Chris, what do you do? Go ahead, Chris. Tell us. You run 8 miles. You go skydiving.
No. I barely knew what a gym was before I started this show. No, I don't. I think I was thinking of a few things. I mean, it's hard doing a show 8 times a week. This show, I don't know if it's particularly consuming. It feels like that. I think there's an element of being at New World Stages as well, where we exist in a basement for a lot of time. Maybe I should be taking more vitamin D. Who knows? But and I have started going to the gym, and I have started doing that because that's almost a necessity for this show. But really, what I've learned is to forgive myself in a way. That is the most important part of it for me. I have to kind of allow myself to get really focused on the show and get sucked into it. And maybe I don't cook my meals and I spend too much money in Midtown. Or maybe I do skip the gym a few times a week. Maybe I'm not as prepared for my day job that I do during the day as I could be. But, I'm doing what I love 8 times a week. And I think I'm doing a good job, or like I hope I am. So forgiving myself and learning to do that, because I'm someone who has a habit of putting a lot of pressure on myself. So learning to forgive myself has been a big part of my self-care routine for this show, and vitamin D.
Well, I think that both of you give great advice, and I think you all are doing quite the damn job up there 8 shows a week. It was a blast. I can't recommend people to come down to check out New World Stages and go down to the basement and see the play that goes wrong. It's playing, it's 8 shows a week. And like I said, you can just go, you can have a good time, we live in a crazy time with lots of serious, crazy stuff. And it's really nice to just go and laugh and hopefully, find the dog and get to the end of the show and everyone, I'm trying not to give it away, but the dog thing was the funniest thing because I was online for the restroom and I was like, what the hell? You all do. Go see it. Everyone go see it. Go see Broadway. Go to BroadwayGoesWrong.com and you can make sure and get your tickets and go see. Congratulations to you both. It's a pleasure to see your work. It's so well done. It's so well done.
Thank you.
Break legs, not literally. Be safe.
Yeah.
And have a great show tonight. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Robert. This was a blast.
Thank you for having me.
Aren't they fun? Listen, anyone out there, go support live theater, support theater on Broadway, support theater off Broadway, support your local regional theater, and support your community theater. There's great people out there who are doing a lot of hard work, learning lines to entertain people. Art is what separates us, and it creates humanity. And I can't encourage you enough. If it's funny, if it's serious, if it's a musical, if it's a drama, if it's a movie or a TV show, support an artist today because we all benefit from art and artists. Till next time, if you like what you saw today, make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And you could always learn more about me at robertbannon.com. We're here live every single Thursday night with the Roundtable, and there's Roundtable talks throughout the week where we're artists talking all about art. Till next time, everybody, thank you so much for being here. I'm Robert Bannon. This is the Roundtable. And remember, the best is yet to come. See you next time.